Welcome to the realm where legends come to life. Here, we journey through the timeless tales of myth, folklore, and ancient history, exploring the mysteries that have fascinated humanity for centuries. From the heroic sagas of legendary warriors to the eerie whispers of forgotten spirits, every story is a portal to a world beyond the ordinary. Subscribe and join me on this adventure as we uncover the truth behind the myths, unravel the secrets of ancient civilizations, and delve deep into the stories that shaped our world. Whether you're a lover of history, a fan of fantasy, or simply someone who enjoys a good tale, there's something here for you. Let the stories begin. The legend of mermaids tells of creatures with the gift of music and the ability to sing so sublimely that they can break the will of men. However, their song leads to doom and death, which is why fatal deceptions are now called mermaid songs. The myth of mermaids is one of the oldest and most adapted, forming part of various mythologies around the world. Stories of them are found on ancient artifacts, even predating the emergence and consolidation of Greek legends. In its origins, the myth of mermaids depicted them as three entities merged into one. They were half fish from the waist down, half bird in the torso, and had women's heads, usually with long hair. Over time, this appearance was simplified to represent them with the upper half of a woman and the lower half of a fish. It is believed that they initially symbolized the souls of the deceased, or beings who guided these souls to the underworld. This role was later taken over by King Hermes. Nevertheless, mermaids maintained their connection to the world of the dead, which is why the myth of mermaids is associated with themes of death and mystery. There are several versions of the origin of the mermaid myth. According to one, they were daughters of Melpomene, originally the muse of singing and music, who later became the muse of tragedy, and Achelous, the king of the river of the same name. In one episode of Greek mythology, Achelous is attacked by Hercules, and it is said that the mermaids were born from the blood that flowed from the wound. In this account, these creatures had a father, but no mother, as they were created without female intervention. Another story holds that the mermaids were daughters of Phorcys, a sea king descended from Oceanus and Tethys. His wife Ceto was a terrifying sea monster. However, in this version, Ceto is not the mother of the mermaids. Instead, Phorcys fathered them alone, or with the collaboration of the muses, Hesperides, or Terpsichore. According to the myth of the mermaids, these creatures did not always have a hybrid form. Ovid mentions that they were beautiful women and companions of Persephone, who was abducted by Hades, the king of the underworld. It is said that when this happened, Persephone's friends asked the kings for wings to search for her and fish bodies to cross the river into the underworld. Persephone was the daughter of Demeter, the Greek queen of agriculture. Another version tells that Demeter fell into great grief when her daughter was kidnapped. Full of sorrow over this loss, she punished Persephone's friends for not preventing the abduction by depriving them of their human form. An additional reference to the myth, originating in the Middle East, mentions an extraordinarily beautiful woman named Dorado, who incurred the wrath of Venus. As punishment, Venus made Dorado fall in love with a shepherd with whom she had a daughter. However, once she gave birth, Venus made the love disappear. Enraged by what had happened, Dorado abandoned her daughter, ordered the shepherd's death, and tried to commit suicide by throwing herself into a river. The kings intervened to prevent her death, and instead transformed her into an amphibious creature. The primary characteristic of mermaids was their beautiful voice, capable of singing songs that enchanted men. Their vocal art was so perfect that when sailors heard them, they fell into an almost hypnotic state, captivated by the sweet sound of their voices. They would jump from the ships to hear them better, ultimately drowning in the sea. These creatures lived near the island of Sorrento and were responsible for luring and mesmerizing sailors to their deaths. If they failed to exert their hypnotic power over the men who heard them, one of them had to die in their place. One of the most notable episodes in the myth of mermaids occurred when Odysseus, also known as Ulysses, was attempting to return home after the Trojan War. Warned about the powers of the mermaids and advised by Circe, Odysseus ordered his sailors to plug their ears with wax to avoid hearing their songs. He himself was tied to the ship's mast and instructed them not to untie him, even if he begged in desperation. When the ship passed through the mermaids' territory, Odysseus pleaded to be released, but his sailors ignored him, following his previous orders. In this way, they managed to avoid that danger, and the mermaids, fulfilling their tradition, gave their lives. One of them, named Parthenope, was carried to the shore, and a city was erected in her honor, which later became known as Naples.